name is Whitney Jones. I am a three-time Miss Fitness Olympia. I've also won the Arnold, so I've been Miss International as well. And I'm a mom, so I have two teenage boys. One of the greatest things is that I was the first Miss Olympia to ever be a mom and win that title. So I didn't know it at the moment, but I found out through a media article the next day, and I thought, really? But it was such a cool thing because obviously being a mom in the industry, it's people think, oh, I'll never get my body back. And it's like, come on. Yeah, you can. Now, you may not have dreams to be on the Olympia stage, but it was a cool platform to say, whatever your thoughts are in your head that you can't achieve, knock it out, quiet the noise, go achieve what you want to do. So to me, that's such a great accomplishment. My boys are number one, my biggest accomplishment. But outside of the competing, because competing for me is still truly my hobby, I also own five fitness related businesses. So I'm crazy busy. I own a gym here in Arizona. I have an online coaching business. I have a fitness apparel line, and I also am a show promoter. I do 4 shows here in Arizona, one that's coming up actually April 6th. It's called Triple O Dynasty, and I co-promote that one with Sid Gillen, Miss Figure Olympia, and Andrea Shaw, Miss Olympia. So the three of us together have created an IFBB and an MPC show. And then I have 3 other shows here in Arizona for the MPC level. I do choreography for a ton of the fitness athletes, pros and amateurs. And gosh, just a ton of just community type stuff, different organizations, different networks. So that's kind of quick summary about me. Well, I guess probably not so quick, but
Certainly, whenever you look at it in regards to everything that you do and all the ventures and businesses and relationships and all that you manage, it's really cool that you can do all that and that anyone can do all that if they dedicate themselves to doing it. And going back to something you mentioned about being a mother and not just the fact that, hey, you won this event and that's an amazing accomplishment. But like you said, maybe everybody's not looking to do that, but they still want
yeah.
to achieve some sort of goal. For you, where do you,
Mhm.
where do you feel like that comes from a woman's perspective that, hey, once I have a kid or once XYZ happens, I can't anymore have this physique or achieve these goals? Where do you think that comes from?
Well, honestly, it's almost like at first time moms, it's always the hardest because you try. Sometimes people have tried for years, and they finally are able to get pregnant. They finally have the baby. They have a healthy baby, and then as a parent, you need to pour everything into your children. Honestly, I mean that is the role. Otherwise, I don't recommend having kids. They are a lot of work, but it's truly the greatest job because you are able to create and develop this amazing person that can go out in the world and accomplish the most incredible things, whether it's really helping others or hell inventing something new. I mean, like that is your little craft that you get to put your stamp on. And there's a lot of difficulties with it. There's a lot of fun. But what happens is I think it's overwhelming. It's kind of like when you start a new job, right? And it may be a job that you have no business doing and you're just thrust into it. There's this huge learning curve. So what do? You give it your all. Well, sometimes as parents, and it's not just women, I feel I see it more on the woman's side. But again, there's some amazing dads out there that just they pour themselves into being a parent, and you start losing yourself. You start losing focus of your own goals. You start losing focus on the things that you enjoy that bring you happiness, and you get tunnel vision. And I don't care what it is in life. I feel like if you put all your eggs in one basket and you're only focused on one thing, you're doing yourself a disservice. So, as a parent, if you're not well rounded, if you're not happy elsewhere, if you're not doing things that are self care for yourself, if you're not, if you had a career or you have hobbies, you still need to try and find time to do things for yourself. Otherwise, it does start affecting you as a parent. And so it just starts going, oh gosh, I can't accomplish this because now your time is diminished. And it's not true. Again, there's hard stages when it's a newborn baby and they're up all night and they're crying. And, you can't be like, I'm going to go out and have a spa day once a week. That may not be reality. It truly wasn't for me. But you need to find that you do have to make yourself a priority. It helps mindset, it helps your emotions. It's trying to find that balance that you'll never, in my opinion, ever find a true balance, but you have to try every single day. Got to know what your priorities are, find a good balance of what you need to do, what your responsibilities are, and the things, that are more fun and kind of give you that break, that mental break.
Mhm.
So it's a problem I see far too common with women, where when they get into this cycle and this tunnel vision, they've lost such focus of themselves that anything that comes their way, it's just instantly, there's no way it can happen. So I love to have that fact of going, no, you can. I mean, I'm a single mom. I became a single mom when my boys were young. So I've accomplished all of these things in my career for competing as a single mom. I've opened all of my businesses as a single mom. And it's just, I'm driven to constantly, push and strive for more. And I love it because, I mean, again, that's not to say what anyone else's goals are mine, but I always try to find a way to preach what to follow and walk the walk, talk the talk. Like if I'm preaching it, I need to live it as well. And so it's like people ask me, what new things are you focused on? And I remember years ago going, oh, I don't know. And it's like, well, why? I'm telling everyone, keep setting goals. And I didn't. So way back, I started going, okay, whatever I say on a podcast or an interview or to my clients, I need to live it, truly live it and be authentic. And that helped push me to constantly go, what's my next goal? All right, what's my next goal after hitting that? And it really, truly makes me happy. I have found so much joy and happiness on setting new professional goals, new personal goals, new goals with my hobbies. So just really having something to focus on, I think helps keep us all on track.
Mhm. Do you find going to the balance thing, do you find that especially maybe when you are a younger mother, when I say younger, just from the kid's perspective, when they're younger, um, that finding that balance, whatever that is, when you can have some you time or whatever, if it professionally or fun wise, do you find that that's more or was for you more like, let me find that day to day, let me see where I can squeeze that in? Or do you feel like for you, it was easier to say, okay, I know that maybe on this day at this time, we're going to schedule in a little bit of this. So which one do you think it was for you, more scheduled or more just kind of like on the spot?
I always tried to schedule it, but anyone that's busy professionally or a parent, that your life is probably rarely going to go as planned. So I always tried to plan because at least that gives you something to try and follow if the day goes great. But then you have to be willing to accept that the day is going to go to crap and you're going, oh my gosh, I didn't get to maybe do something you needed to do, or you have to miss out on the fun thing. But you know what? There's always the next day. So I think it's smart to be strategic and try to have it outlined. And for me, with how crazy busy my life is, I'm not even joking. Like every hour of my day is scheduled out now. And as silly as it is, it's the only way I can stay on point with my clients, with my businesses, with my kids. And I just put it in my schedule. Like it doesn't have to be detailed, but I'll say family time. And this is set family time where I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to be present and dedicated to them. They're in sports. I want to be there. I want to be part of it. But then there's time to work too. So I really try to stick true to my schedule. It makes me way more efficient. When I wasn't as detailed and booked so solid, I was crazy unproductive. And I'd have this whole day, I had all this stuff to do. So I like having it. And maybe it's just my personality. I like having that planned schedule. And then something that didn't get accomplished this day, it rolls over. So I keep it all on. I have a thing on my phone. It's an app that just kind of keeps me true to it. And then sometimes I go, that's never going to happen. That needs to be pushed back to 3 months or whatever it is.
So when you mentioned being there, did you ever struggle with being there mentally, even though you were there physically?
Oh yeah. I mean, and I still do. Let's be real. I mean, there's times I'll have some big thing going on with one of my businesses, and it will be my son's football game. Like they both are big into football, Friday night football games, and I hate it because it's like I want to be there. I don't want to miss the play. I felt like if I'm sitting there texting and on my phone, that's when the big play is going to happen, and I'm going to miss it, and I'm going to be so mad. So I try to be strategic about it. A lot of my clients, my assistants, friends, they know this certain time, don't expect to, and if only if it's an emergency. But I did that. I mean, for again, years ago, each year, I feel like I learn better systems, I guess, for lack of a better word, on how to navigate. And I used to be at their games sometimes when they were younger with my laptop up, and this would be baseball games all weekend long. And I'm like, I am the weirdo parent out here with a laptop in the middle of the summer. But it's like if they weren't playing that inning, I thought I'm going to be productive. And there were some times I needed to, but then it's like, really? Is it really that necessary? So I try to just pick and choose and be more strategic. That's where I started going. If I have a baseball event all weekend, I need to be very efficient that Friday so I don't have to bring my laptop.
Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. For you, is that something that you kind of just learned along the way more, or do you feel like maybe it was like advice from people around you, like, hey, this is a good idea when it comes to this, or this is a good way to manage your time better? Like, how did you come across or come to gain that, I guess?
To be completely honest, it was out of necessity. So my boys were 3 and 5 when I suddenly was divorced or getting divorced, and totally unexpected. And you're in this crazy emotional chaos. I had just opened my first business and I had 2 little kids. I had just started in the industry, and it's like, oh my gosh, my head was exploding. Your emotions are roller coaster. But at the end of the day, I thought, number one, I need to be there for my kids. I need to support my family. Number two, I need to make money to be able to pay all my bills. And so it started going, I got to get organized. I don't have time to sit here and have a pity party or be sad, as much as I wanted to feel like, okay, I need to feel these emotions so I can move on. I didn't have time. And so it was out of necessity going, what's important? What's important is that my boys aren't impacted by anything negative, by me kind of being sad or whatever. And then that I continue to build revenue and can pay the bills and can keep maintaining my life, stay in my house. So it came down to, all right, buckle down. I need to get up earlier. I need to get my work done. I need to take on more clients. At that point, it was like competing was like, it's going to be there if I can. But again, that's not paying my bills. So that was more of a release for me to say, all right, I'm going to use that when I need to go to the gym and get my mind right and kind of have my self time. But it became necessity and just going, I want to continue to thrive in my life. I want to continue being a great mom. I want to continue growing my business that I just started. So I need to kick it in gear, and it's up to me. Only I was the one who was going to control whether I crumbled or whether I thrived. And so just kind of having that aha moment to go, this is where we're going to see what I'm truly made of. Am I going to sink or am I going to swim? And I don't like to sink. So I thought this isn't going to be easy, but I got to dig deep and find a way.
Right. Yeah. And do you think that part of your success in bodybuilding is maybe due to the fact that like you had so much going on? This thing was like an outlet. It was something fun. It was something to, that to maybe escape the stresses. So you saw it more as this fun thing and saw it more as something that you got to do.
Absolutely. I live by this motto, and I have it all over my house. I even have it in the mirrors of my boys' bathrooms, and it's H2G2. You don't have to, you get to. So for me, this sport was a get to option. I don't have to go to the gym. I don't have to meal prep. I don't have to do cardio. I get to do those things. Now I'm choosing to do this. So why bitch about it? No one's going to have sympathy for me. My family's going to say, well, why don't you quit then? Why do you have to compete? So it was up to me to say, I get to do this. I'm choosing to do this. I can't have a negative attitude about it, because if I want support around me, then I need to prove that I'm doing this. It's not going to affect anybody. I'm not going to complain about it because, again, it's a choice. It's not a job. Like a job, you have to go to work if you want to get a paycheck, and you can have bad days and you can vent. But when it comes to this sport, we get to do it. So me going into this, it was zero expectations, honestly. I even from day one got into this sport out of a dare, believe it or not. I had no idea what I was doing, and someone had said, there's no way you could do this sport. I didn't know what they were talking about when they said the sport, but I grew up with two older brothers who constantly dared me to do stuff. And I was like, yeah, I could. Again, not knowing if they were talking about freaking cage wrestling or tennis, whatever. They just said, there's no way you could do this sport. And I was like, yeah, I can. And so they're like, yeah, right. We'll see. And I'm like, done. I'm going to do it. And then it's literally turned around like, what the hell are they talking about? So that's how I got into this sport. But again, it was a fun outlet. It was a great outlet. So for me, I 100% attribute my success of becoming a pro, of making it to be a Olympia qualified athlete, and even more so actually winning the Olympia, on the fact that I can wholeheartedly say I didn't care about the outcome. I did it for fun. I did it because it was my outlet. In the fitness division, it's all about creativity. I mean, clearly we have the physique round, but I was like, how cool is it that I can put whatever music I want together? I can come out with the craziest costume. I can come up with silly tricks as long as I have these 4 mandatory moves. And I get to go out there and it's my expressive moments that I can choreograph whatever I want. I have no gymnastics experience. I'm all just self-taught because I'm like, I jumped into the sport again, not knowing at 35 years old, going, I'm going to try this fitness thing, and jumped in. And I'm like, okay, I could do some basic flipping just from growing up, but zero like form. I had no idea what I was doing, but I loved that as a challenge. And that's how I excelled. I just enjoyed the act of getting on stage and performing and entertaining. And whether I was first place or last place, it was like I was having a blast and not focusing on the outcome. 100% literally was my key to success.
Whenever you actually figured out what this sport was, as you mentioned, was it like, did you start to look at it and go, oh gosh, there's a lot involved here. I didn't have any idea. Or like, what was your initial thoughts on learning about what was involved in the world of bodybuilding and fitness?
Oh, totally. I mean, so the first show I went to, I was figure because I didn't know there was a fitness division. Now, I had seen it on ESPN and stuff, but again, this was just something that was brand new to me. And I've been in the gym industry, but I had never seen an actual show. So I go and just local here in Arizona, I did a show, but I see these girls off to the side in costumes and they're like backstage just having fun. And everyone else over here is so serious. And I'm like, man, I am so not serious. So I don't know who those girls are, but they look fun. So I found out that there was this fitness division. Now I didn't get to see any of their routines. So then I was like, I want to be a fitness girl. So signed up for Orange County Classic or something. It was in California. And I created this routine. Now I didn't even know there was mandatory moves. So I just show up. I think my routine was like a minute, 10 seconds. And it was just like, doo, 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 and I would do some trick here and there. So I ended up winning and I won the overall, but I was the only athlete competing. But I still love to say that I won the overall. And the judges came up and they're like, hey, so that was great, but there's actually some requirements. Like there's a structure of what a routine entails. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. So where can I find that out? So I started to learn that there's mandatory moves. It needs to be 2 minutes long, and started kind of doing my research then. So again, I'd never even seen a fitness routine before I did my first one. Then I started looking online. And of course, back then there wasn't a ton of routines posted on YouTube. They would be like the Olympia routine. There'd be one or two. So it was really hard to kind of understand what it entailed, which is honestly, once I became a pro, I thought, I want to help young girls who are excited about it, like me, who have no clue what the hell they're doing, and just help them skip the couple years of me trying to figure stuff out and go, let me just tell you, here's the XYZ. hit these things. Let's create a routine. So it takes that frustration out of it. But then, yeah, it was like, these girls are amazing. And I thought, I sure as hell don't know how to do any of that because I'm not a gymnast. And let's be honest, 9 out of 10 girls in the fitness division, they're gymnasts. So without any formal training, I had no expectations. I went to a national show, ended up getting my pro card, and was like, I've hit the height of where I'll ever go, and I was totally cool with it. Like, this is amazing. I do have some medical issues, so I have some heart problems, and I wanted to at least step on the stage one time to do a pro show, to just have them call out my name, Whitney Jones, as IFBB Fitness Pro. So I was scheduled to have heart surgery, and I got clearance, which is crazy, to do a show. It was 10 days out, and it was the Pittsburgh Pro. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do my pro debut because I was going in for my heart procedure, and there's 50-50 chance I was going to wake up with a pacemaker. So I thought at least I could step on stage. 10 days out, came up with a routine. Physique was crap, but again, I didn't care. I was like, I just want to do it. Long story short, ended up, surgery didn't go great, but I didn't have a pacemaker. I kind of healed and then was able to continue kind of safely. But I was just like, this is cool. If I get to do a pro show again, I'm excited. It's an honor. So that's where it was just kind of like, I'm loving it, but I'm not like those girls at the top. I don't have that talent. But I love the fact of being a newbie to it all and trying to learn how to do this stuff. And the great thing about our division is you don't have to be a gymnast. You don't have to be a dancer. We have athletes in the IFBB and the NPC fitness division who have crazy talent, like martial arts masters and doing crazy things like the tap and lyrical dancing, and then hula hooping or jump rope, like crazy, crazy skills. So you can be anything. And as long as you hit the certain criteria, it's all about entertaining them and entertaining the audience and literally having a blast. So I was just doing it for fun, not knowing at what point in my life my heart issues could take me out and my career was over. And thankfully, I've been able to kind of modify through all these years and continue. And again, as you saw, like, was fortunate enough to be at the top of my game and have some amazing experiences in the whole journey.
You mentioned that like there's so many people in the fitness division that have different talents, and it's really cool to kind of see the different ways they display that because of their backgrounds. For you,
Yeah.
with your athletic background, like how did that shape your your performance, your choreography? How specifically how did your previous usage of your body, if that makes sense, and moving it in certain planes in different ways, like did that shape your choreography and your performance at all? Are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
Yeah, to be honest, so I've had a ton of injuries. I mean, we've talked about it on a lot of podcasts. So I'm a daredevil. Again, growing up with two older brothers, they dared me to do everything. And it was like, you got to learn to do this or you can't hang out with us. So I kind of developed that Evel Knievel type mindset, which I don't recommend necessarily because it has gotten me in trouble. I have injured myself a lot. But I always just loved being different. So as I would try to learn, it's like imitation is flattery, right? So trying to learn some of the push-up combos and some of the skills that these other girls were doing. But I quickly knew, like, I'm not as strong as them. I can't tumble like them. So what can I do? And the best advice that I give so many young athletes trying to get in the fitness division is I found out so many incredible things on my fails. So I would videotape a lot of my practicing, and I would be trying to do a specific skill that I was mimicking, and I would fail. But it would be like oh, wait, that could actually work. So most of the things that you see on stage in my routines are totally unconventional. It's like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't have a name. It's like a made up skill. But it's because I was trying to do something that maybe someone else was doing, wasn't capable of it. But by watching back some of the video or being in that moment and like catching myself a certain way, I started discovering certain skills that no one was doing. And that's what the judges like. They're like, no one's doing some of the stuff you're doing. And then I decided to start trying to learn to break dance. Hello, why not? I was about to turn 40. I thought now might be a great time to try breakdancing.
Right, right.
But again, it was like I hadn't seen that much on the stage at that time. So I thought the judges may hate it, but I don't care. I was having fun because that is hard. And especially for women where our center of gravity is different than men, breakdancing for females is so much harder. It's why you don't see them as much. And we're bottom heavy, where a lot of guys are, they've got their strength in the upper body. So I thought this is going to be so hard. But again, I like a challenge. That's what makes me feel like I've accomplished something. And if the judges didn't like it, they didn't like it. I liked it. So, it's just a matter of trying to find what you do different than others, find what you love, because it's going to be way easier to sell a performance on stage if you're doing something that you personally love, not that someone's telling you you need to do. So, I mean, I think it's just being an athlete, being a daredevil, loving to try new unconventional things. I mean, I'm kind of known for people being like, hey, can you do a blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, I don't know. Show me a video. There's only one way to find out. Let's throw it.
Working with other athletes, is it harder or easier at all to like choreograph for yourself or for other people? Is one harder than the other?
Definitely for me. I love coaching fitness athletes. So, again, I have a lot of pros that I've coached for years. So I know their skill set, I know their personality. So I'll see a skill or a trick or start kind of coming up with it, or hear a song, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's going to be amazing. I know Shelly will want to do that. Oh, I know Allison will want to do that. Like whatever it is. So I have all these amazing ideas from tricks, skills, and songs for everyone else. And people are like, you give away all your good stuff. And then when it comes for your routine, you're like, oh, I don't have any ideas. So because I typically in my style of getting ready for a show, I don't like to do my routine too far in advance because I get bored of it. I have to be excited when I hit the stage. And I'm notorious for totally changing my routine even the week of. It's ridiculous. But that's just, I know it happens. So the earliest I've ever really started a routine is 6 weeks, which most athletes minimum it's 12. I stay in cardio shape. I practice skills year round, but it's packaging it is like 6 to 4 weeks out. And then I just go with it. So it is. I love other girls' routines way more than mine. So I'd say it's easy. I could put together an entire badass routine for a client before I even see them, before they fly in town. And then we get together and it's a dual effort because I don't design it and say, here's your routine. It's collaboration. But I'll have all these ideas for them. And then it comes to my routine and I'm like, yeah, I got nothing.
You mentioned music. Are there other kind of areas of art or whatever that you have been inspired by to create, whether that be not necessarily the whole thing, but like a feeling or a vibe, if you will, of like what I want this to feel like, or the color is going to represent this. And that kind of makes me think about, slower or, how, like, I guess go in depth on how you kind of come up with the initial idea and then how that kind of rolls out into the whole thing.
Well, so this is an interesting question. I've never been asked it before. So this is a first. But there's a deep psychological process in regards to putting together your routine. It's a performance. So if the athlete themselves isn't feeling the music, doesn't like the skills, is uncomfortable with the choreography, like the dance part, they're not going to have an easy time performing it. And our job as a fitness athlete is to hit the stage, to bring the energy, to hype the crowd, to wake everyone up. But when you're kind of like, you're not going to do it right. So I always ask my athletes, like, give me songs that make you excited. Like if you're driving in the car and this song comes on, you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a good day. Or you're in the club. Like, what is it that gets you excited? Not because some people will sing country songs, and I'm a country girl. I love country. Fitness routines are not made for country music. So it's like you need energy. That's what it has to go to. So I want to know from my athletes, give me a list of 10, 12 songs that when you hear it, you want to move. It makes you want to get out of your chair and dance because that tells me the type of genre, that tells me kind of the music. Now, we from that list may have the songs that end up being in their routine, or it allows me to go, okay, ooh, what about this one? Ooh, what about this one? And I keep a library of just songs that I hear throughout the year that I think would be great for fitness routines. And then it's this collaboration. But then from there, it could be a sound bite where you have this from a different song that you pull in just the lyrics or the words and it hits hard, or sound effects. So I mix a lot of the music for my athletes. I also work with a DJ who does a lot of it. And then when they come in town, I always work with athletes. They come in town and we literally spend the entire day, turn on the music, shut the doors, pull out the mats, and it's just a complete brainstorm fest. And we just roll with it. And sometimes it's like, let's loop this 2/8 count music and let's just see, where are we going with it? Do we want to explode? Is this a jumping movement? Is this just straight dance and you're getting in their face? So it's a whole process. Then from that, you go, okay, if it's a themed type routine, or with the music that kind of is very like aggressive, what outfit are you wearing? What color screams that you get excited about? So it's this whole process that goes into it, because at the end of the day, the routine's going to be either, damn, that was badass, or yeah, that was kind of cool. And it's all in how it's performed. So all those details matter, but it needs to be personal. When you don't have that personal connection to your routine, it's going to be obvious when you hit the stage, and you're not going to sell it. It's going to look fake. You're going to have this, you're doing these tricks with this stale smile. Whereas when you hit the stage, it needs to be attitude where you're aggressive and then you're happy and then you're like, cocky. Like it needs to portray all these emotions in one set routine.
Do you ever consider the specific show or region or judges or audience is probably going to be somewhat similar, but someone in Kentucky versus someone in New York versus someone in Miami may respond to a different kind of vibe or a different kind of music. Do you ever consider those things when you're doing any of that?
Yes, sometimes. Now it's pretty awesome because it's kind of consistent across the board, especially at like the national level. We always know typically Sandy's going to be your head judge for fitness, which does make that consistency easier to go, well, this judge likes this style and this judge likes this style. A lot of people want to say that that's a thing. But now with Sandy at the national level, she's typically always going to be your head judge. The sad part is when you get to the pro level, there's not a ton of shows anymore. And so it's very competitive. So what it honestly boils down to is, where are the shows? How many shows can you afford to travel to this year in order? Because at the pro level, everyone's goal is to qualify for the Olympia. So realistically going, all right, I'm going to prep. I want to do 2 or 3 shows. They need to be close together while I'm in prep. That's my shot to get that win so that I can go to Olympia. So it more boils down to, for us, proximity versus judges, location of it, for who the head judge is. Because in our division, when I think this year there's 8 or 9 pro shows, that's it. You just got to go, and you have to go again. It's primarily finances, because you want as many shots as you can to get that win, to get to the Olympia stage. So if you can find ones that are close to wherever you live, that's the most advantageous thing to do.
I don't exactly know how to ask this question, but watching the Arnold made me think about it. I was watching it via the live stream and had the commentary, and in watching it and seeing like, okay, this person they're talking about didn't, maybe do as well in the physique rounds, but maybe they're going to do well in the with their performance side of things, so it can really boost them up, and maybe they'll first, second, third, whatever, in that way. But when you're making your, as an individual athlete, from your perspective as well as looking at it from maybe the whole kind of division perspective, does it ever make sense that like, okay, I know that I might be the fourth or fifth best physique at this show. Like, I don't think anyone
Mhm.
wants to admit it or anyone wants to like go in with that attitude, but in reality, you may be thinking it. Okay, I know I've competed
Yeah.
against these people. I'm probably going to be, I might be in the top five, but I'm probably not going to get past two or
Mhm.
three. So does that ever go into like, because I know that, and in particularly at this given show, that I need to like add an additional level of flair to make my performance stand out even more. This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the truth of the matter. Same thing. I came into this sport and I'm still small considering the physiques that are on the pro fitness stage. I've never been the biggest girl. I've still won the physique round, but coming up, it's like I didn't put that as my pinnacle. It was like, gosh, I just need to be in the top if I can of both. So, when I wasn't top five physique, I knew I got to bring a routine that's going to capture their attention because the routine is 2/3 of the score, whereas physique is just 1/3. So you can make up points in the routine round, which is great because unlike other divisions, you got one shot. So, or you could have a good physique, but you get nervous and you're shaking, or, you do awful in posing where you're knocked down. We used to have a chance to make it up in the routine. So we do have that second chance. But what's interesting is then you get to the night show and you never know. It's a total crapshoot when we're the one division that when you go out on stage, you have no idea who's going to place because that mathematical equation is too impossible to figure out knowing all the different athletes on stage with their physique. But absolutely. I mean, the thing is, if you can come in with a pretty legit physique and routine, top five of any of it, then you can feel comfortable knowing that you're going to place. But another thing that's interesting is with the routine, for example, with the Arnold or the Olympia, and a lot of us talk, you typically know who's going to be at that show. So even when I'm working with my athletes, it's like, okay, if so and so is doing it, how's your routine going to stand apart? So we may switch out skills because you don't want to look like you're doing the exact same skills. So you got to stand apart. So it is kind of good to go if I need to make up some points in the routine round because I know I'm not going to beat number one, two, or three, then how is my routine going to be that much better? So separate yourself. And so we'll modify routines knowing who they're going in against in hopes of going, you're not going to beat them in physique, but maybe you can beat them in routine.
Does it ever go the other way?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So where
Yep.
people are maybe more conservative with their routine because they know that they do maybe have the top physique?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep, it does. I mean, and honestly, some people, we've had a lot of figure athletes want to jump into the fitness division going, I either want to place at a pro show or same thing, national level. They're like, I have a legit physique, but they don't realize you still got to do a routine. And they'll be so low on the routine, thinking their physique is going to get them where they need to be. It's not going to happen. I mean, we've had several girls who do that at the pro level and they don't realize they're like, oh, this routine part's hard. If that's not your forte, if you're a true figure girl trying to jump in to the fitness division when you don't have a skill set to be in that division, you're going to get hammered.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, just how hard it is and from the prep and all that kind of angle of it. This is kind of more of an in the weeds question, but does being also a fitness competitor and knowing like, okay, now I have to like this when I'm practicing my routine, that aspect of it's going to be pretty high energy and all that kind of stuff. Does that impact it all? Like, is there a difference between like the meal timing and the meal,
Mm.
um, what maybe you would versus wouldn't eat because you are in fitness and like you don't want it to be upsetting your stomach, or, before or after? Like, how does that play a role in, and how do you manage like the having to get it all in when you need to get it all in? Then also in the other way, I think too, knowing that, all right, I'm going to be fairly depleted, but I still have to go do this thing. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of manage those on both ends?
So here's a quick, easy analogy. So, because I coach athletes in the fitness division, athletes in all the other divisions, and I also coach lifestyle clients. So, for one fitness athlete, because they are by far the hardest, they require the most time. You're constantly modifying their program because of the routine and everything they're doing. One fitness athlete takes as much time as 4 to 5 other athletes and is equivalent to 10 lifestyle clients. So I could take 10 lifestyle clients. It's the same amount of time as 4 to 5 other competitive athletes who are hitting the stage to one fitness athlete. We are by far the hardest. But to be honest, I privately, kind of behind the scenes, help a lot of coaches who reach out and they say, I'm not used to coaching these fitness athletes. You guys are freaks. What help? And I never mind that. So anyone that's listening, if you have a fitness athlete, NPC or IFBB, I don't care. I don't need credit. I don't want to be, I'll be behind the scenes just giving you advice because it's about being safe. A lot of times you see that they are too low calorie for the amount of exercise in a day that they're doing with their cardio, with their routine practice, with their workouts, with their flexibility training. And maybe they're doing additional stuff like taking dance classes or gymnastics classes. So a lot of times they are doing way too much. They're overtraining, they're losing their muscle, they're not eating enough. So, that's one of the biggest things is not of realizing they're not like every other stage athlete. Like it, when you're training for this, there's so many factors. And then you factor in if they have a job that you got to work around, or they have kids that you got to work around, and there's only certain times a day they can get to the gymnastics place to practice their routine on the mats. It is constant moving parts, and it takes a very good trainer to really understand how to prep a fitness athlete and to do it right and to do it safely, where you're fueling them, where they're not going to get injured. Because if they're too depleted, that's why you see so many injuries. They're overtraining, they don't have enough nutrition, and they're doing way too much. They'll never make it to stage. So it is very complex. And yeah, when it comes to show day, we're totally depleted. For the athletes I coach, I don't pull water like that. I have you eating. So I coach a little bit different, but I live and breathe it. And I know I couldn't step on that stage and perform a badass routine if I had nothing in the tank. So, but even with what we do, we are still depleted. We're lean, we're dry, everything aches. We typically are always injured. Everyone at the top hits the Olympia, the Arnold stage, and there's at least one issue that they have with their body, guaranteed. So, we're beaten, battered, but we do it because we love it. So it's really important, whoever your coach is, that they understand how to prep you properly, because you want to be in this for the long run. But if you're doing it wrong, if your coach doesn't really understand it, you could easily get hurt or wreck your metabolism, or worse, just be so discouraged by it that you're out of the industry in general. And we don't want that.
Right. And this is from a coach perspective because we talk a lot about coaching on this podcast and kind of the ins and outs of that. But and if you don't want to answer this specifically or even generally, completely understand. But is that because a fitness client is maybe 10 times as much or 5 times as much as a work or mental thought or that kind of thing? Is that too from a coaching and a business perspective where it's like, okay, yes, this person is taking up more time than another client, so I need to charge more than for the other client.
Yeah, sadly, I mean, it is. So if you're not a true coach of fitness athletes, they typically have maybe just one, because it is fun. Like as a coach, you want to be able to say, I coach athletes in all divisions. So it is a fun challenge. And everyone that I've ever talked to, like, oh, I have a fitness athlete. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. You guys are crazy. Like it's hard to get you guys everything wrapped together for your program. But it's still like, again, any good coach loves that challenge, and they love the fitness division. They love to be like, that's my athlete jumping around on stage and looking like a freaking rock star. So it is, but you're right. When it comes down to the amount of time, like clearly just being transparent, the money that I could make on my fitness clients is a complete wash. If even that. I'm probably under. But I love it because it's so fun. And like I said, when I started, I didn't have anyone that I could learn from. And so I thought this is a cool way for me to give back, to go, oh, you're interested in the fitness division? Again, let me save you 2 to 3 years of trial and error and trying to figure things out and looking online. I can kind of give you the shortcut so that you can enjoy the good parts of the fitness division and really excel in it without having to try to figure out, wait, so the routine has to have what? And can I use this kind of music? So it is, most coaches are like, nah, I'll steer clear of it. The good thing in that aspect is there's not a ton of us. Not that I like that, but if you do have a fitness athlete, hang on to them, love on them, support them, because they're a badass. They are putting in the work, and it's fun to have a fitness athlete under your little repertoire of athletes.
Mm-hmm. So going back to something that you said in your last comments about like when you're coaching someone, it's like, okay, I know we're not going to be able to get maybe as dehydrated like during because of the all the things with the performance aspect and things.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that and how much of like, okay, we know that you're going to respond well to this certain carb or this certain food goes into the prep? Like, is that something that you do maybe like 3-4 weeks out, or just start to like?
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, for a lot of athletes, not just fitness, it's let's play around with foods from day one. Let's see, when you eat XYZ combination as a pre-workout meal, how do you feel in your workout? Or do you feel strong? Do you feel fatigued? So with any athlete that I work with, and even honestly, lifestyle clients, it's a matter of everyone is different in what fuels their body, like how our bodies process it, whether it's the carbs or the fats. So no matter what, it's important to figure out what combination of foods, and more importantly, what foods don't work so you can avoid them when you're truly trying to kind of kick it in high gear at the gym, or maybe you have the goal of running a marathon, or being a pickleball champion. Whatever your goal is, when it's time to be in the game and in the thick of it with your practice, you want to be on point. It's trial and error. Nutrition, food is fuel, but it takes time to figure it out. So from day one of working with any client, the goal is we're going to do through trial and error to figure out what foods are the best for you, that get you the result you want, that fuel you and energize you and make you feel stronger in the act that really matters. So, but then, yeah, when it comes to prep, especially for fitness, as we get into the last few weeks, we start practicing, okay, what is your meal going to be for warm-ups on show day? And so we do a little bit of replication process of going, okay, so try XYZ, eat that meal before you go and run your routine and see how you feel. Because again, it's different. Like what I eat compared to my client on stage, compared to the one who competes next week, could be totally different. So it's a matter of finding what specifically works for you. And the only way to do it is through trial and error.
And have you ever found that like one specific food like works pretty well when, okay, we're gonna go lift, we're gonna train, strength train. But whenever you're going to go do, practice the routine, it's like, okay, when we did that, it was like it didn't sit well because maybe of the added intensity or whatever. So we needed to switch it up to, this other food, and that ended up working out better.
Yeah. A lot of times, like for fitness athletes, liquids. So doing a big protein shake before, that's not great if you're going to be flipping. That totally will upset your stomach. And then all of a sudden, like from all the liquids sloshing around, you have the worst stomach ache ever. So, but then again, you don't want a big, heavy meal. So, for example, for me, when it's a routine day, I will have a really big breakfast, really big mid morning snack. And then I kind of taper it down as my lunch, because I usually would do afternoon training, because I can't have a full stomach. It makes me more lethargic. And then I would be doing routine for a long time. So I need to sip intra workout drinks where I have carb powder, aminos, because I burn so much. And then after practice, it is like game on, food fest for me. So, but yeah, it's, again, most people figure what I would eat for my workouts is totally different when it comes to routine practice. Some people need that sugar push too, where they can eat some Pop Tarts or even some candy where it's light, but it kind of gives them that spark of energy where they're not heavy in their stomach. Others will hit that quick sugar rush and then crash. So again, it's really different. But if you start practicing kind of that trial and error process well in advance, you're going to have the information you need to go in at your best with how your physique looks to bring you in tight, but then be able to really kill it on stage when it's time to like perform.
I've never prepped, and I've certainly never done like a fitness prep, but when I was training for a marathon, I noticed that, and this is very different from when I would lift weights. When I was in doing, 10 plus miles of running and stuff, I would start to just crave the most like fatty, I would always be like, I want a Big Mac and I want a milkshake. During that training, I would be like, oh man, I really want this food. But that didn't really happen during strength training. Is that something that you notice or that people talk about in regards to fitness, like having more cravings?
I mean, I would say I used to do endurance events as well. And what's funny is I can eat way more in this whole like fitness lifestyle of lifting and training than I could when I was doing endurance sports. And I had crazy cravings. And I think it was because there was so much caloric burn in the endurance activities where it wasn't focused on like building muscle per se, where you're using your food to fuel your muscles. It was this constant burn, 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 where you're literally overtraining. And for me personally, I realized my body was starving. And so when you're in that starvation mode, and it's similar to prep, when people prep and they're starving so much, then when they have a cheat meal, or then when the show's over and they get to finally just kind of eat normal, they can't stop and they can't get the cravings under control. So and from my experience, personally, again, it's just in that starvation mindset of your body is screaming for food and nutrition. And then when you give it your body that stuff, it hangs on to it. So then you get that skinny fat look and it hangs on to it because it's like, well, when the hell is she going to go on another run and just take everything that we need and leave us to starve? So I think it's for me, it was a very unhealthy way because I didn't realize what my body needed nutritionally. And similar to your question about, what do you eat? I would try to eat, but then I couldn't go on these runs because I didn't feel good with a big, belly of food. But yet, how do you do these long endurance events? So now they have different things like the gel packs. And, I didn't, maybe they had that back then. I didn't know about it. But I feel like if you're not nutritionally satisfying your body's requirements, you get into that mode where you have these crazy cravings. Whereas in lifting, especially like when you're going to lift, you're not trying to diet per se. So you're not telling your body you can't have it.
Mhm.
So you're just going to eat regularly. And again, it's a mental thing as well, where you're like, okay, I can't have this because it's why prep is so hard. That's all you can focus on then. So, it's kind of a mix of both. I think it's the overtraining and too high calories that put you in starvation mode where you get these crazy cravings. And let's be honest, with bodybuilding, with this whole fitness lifting, you've got to fuel your body to look the way it needs to. Now, you obviously got to fuel it with the right things, but if you're doing it right and eating certain, every 3 hours, to get 6 meals a day, your body should be able to keep those cravings at bay.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I like to think about fitness and like bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, endurance, and how we can like manipulate the body to do so much with in regards to performance or aesthetics or whatever that may be. I just find it
Mm-hmm.
so interesting. I think that's one of the biggest things that draws me to the world of fitness is just how
Yeah.
diverse it is and how like okay, maybe I couldn't be the top marathon runner in the world, or maybe I couldn't be the top bodybuilder in the world or power lifter, but my body has a certain capacity to lift really heavy or run really long or run really
Yeah.
fast. And I think that that's so fascinating. And, bodybuilding obviously, and, you're a great example of what can happen, at the top of the sport and getting there and, all that kind of stuff. But in that sense, in those regards of being at the top of the sport and being, an Olympia champion multi-time, do you feel like there's almost an added level of responsibility for you now that you're a little bit of a face of something else other than just yourself?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as any Olympia title holder, it's you're representing the sport. And so it's constantly going, okay, hold yourself in high regard and how you represent the sport. I'll say as a mom, it was easy because of course I'm always constantly thinking I never want to do anything that could embarrass my family, could embarrass my boys. I'm a total goofball, clearly, and I have tons of fun and I'm rarely serious, but yet you want to be respected. You want to be um, deemed a champion. And so I've said this before, like those moments on stage when you win your first title, it's like, wow, I'm a champion. I was awarded that championship title on stage. But the true definition of a champion is what you do from the moment you step off stage and that entire year that you hold the title until you get back on stage to defend it. That is the definition of a true champion. What are you doing to give back to the sport? What are you doing to bring yourself back to where you started? Where you can go, okay, when I was a newbie, what would have helped me? So if you're truly a champion, you want to live and breathe it and represent the best you can of your division and of the sport. And so I loved it. I thought this is a cool opportunity to be able to have a voice at this moment that again, we all have a voice, but now I have the opportunity to do things like this, to be on a podcast or to do an interview. So what are you going to do with that? Do good with it. Again, you have an entire year. You got those moments on stage, but be a true champion. Build a legacy. Do good for the sport so that people want to join or they want to give it a try and lay the foundation for them to show this sport can be so fun. You're going to learn so much about yourself. Challenge yourself. Go into the sport the right way. You're competing against yourself. We've talked about so many of these things about don't have tunnel vision. Let the sport be a part of your life. Don't let the sport be your life. So I just thought this was a great example or a great opportunity to be an example to lead anyone interested in the sport as a whole on the female side, as well as specific to the fitness division. And it's an honor. I mean, honestly, there's not many of us who can say I'm an Olympia champion. And so I took it very seriously to say, this is one opportunity, one shot that I get to represent myself, my family, the state of Arizona, the United States, the whole federation in the fitness division, do right by it. So it's more of an honor. A lot of people say, is there pressure? I honestly think the only pressure is if you're a bad person, then you're like, this is going to be really hard to act like I'm a good person for an entire year and fool them all. So that's where it would be more pressure to be a champion, I think. Well, and I will say too, and this is huge because there's so many people who they truly love the sport. So you don't have to be a champion to do those things either. Being a champion just allows you to have a bigger voice, a bigger platform. But even so, well before I ever became a champ, I just loved this. I started becoming a choreographer and helping the other fitness girls. So you can still give back. You can still do amazing things. We look at so many of the names in the industry. They may have never won Olympia. Who cares? But it's like, what did you do? How were you remembered? And there's plenty of Olympia champions who've had that title for 1 year or even more. And you're like, yeah, I don't really know. It's a name in a book that they see or online, but they don't recall them. It's like no matter what you're doing in life, whether it's in the sport or in your business, make sure you do something that people can always remember you because of what you did to help them, how you impacted them. Just being like, oh, I know this person is totally different from I learned from this person or I was inspired or motivated by this person. So how are you personally impacting others in a positive way that is like life-changing or is memorable in their mind? And that's where I feel you truly make a difference, whether you're a top athlete in the sport, an Olympia champ, and a newbie in the NPC. no matter what, there's opportunities to always do good.
Yeah, great point. Well said. And I think there's so many topics and things that we could talk about, and I would love to talk about. I hope maybe have you back on in the future if you'd be willing to. I don't want to take up your whole, I know you
Anytime.
have your day scheduled out and stuff, so I don't want to take up too much of
Yeah.
your time, but I really do appreciate you coming on.
Yes, and honestly, anytime. I love watching what you're doing. I think it's great. You have such a wide variety of athletes on your show and different topics. And, it's great that you're able to just really have this platform to really share and share your passion. So I appreciate the opportunity. I know we had to do some finagling to work schedules, and glad we finally made it happen. But anytime, I mean, honestly, whatever I can do to help in the industry and help you out as well, I'm always down for.
It's greatly appreciated. And if you want to share any you talk about your show, any dates or any websites or social media or anything like that, you can.
Sure. So I have the Triple O Dynasty show. It's an IFBB NPC show coming up April 6th. This summer, these are all in Arizona. This summer, I have the Whitney Jones Natural Classic, first time of this year. So it'll be the first annual. And that is August 10th. And then we have the Whitney Jones Classic, the original, which is in its 6th year, and the Arizona State Championships. They're in collaboration together on the same day, and that is October 5th. So you can see all that information on whitneyjonesproductions.com. You can follow me and my goofiness on Instagram at @WhitneyJones_IFBB Pro. And of course, you can find me on my website, fitwitjones.com. But any way you reach out, I mean, I handle all of my own messages. So if you reach out and you're ignored, that is my fault. So I apologize. But yeah, obviously, anyone who's listening, if there's any way that I can help you, give advice, I'm all about it. So if it takes me a little bit to get back to you, though, I apologize. But yeah, and if you follow me on Instagram, you're going to see goofy stuff. I love memes. I love debauchery and shenanigans. So I apologize in advance.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.